The man who feeds the hungry people. The trading caravan from Srisvasti to Rajgir was near the end of its journey. As the city of Rajgir came into view, the traders and cart drivers were anticipating several days of well-earned rest. After unloading and loading, they would head back home. Heading the caravan was Anandapanaka, a wealthy businessman from Srisvasti. Anandapanaka was not his real name. It was a name affectionately given to him by residents of Srisvasti, meaning, the man who feeds the hungry people, because every day he donated meals to hundreds of people monks, travelers, poor hungry people, mendicants. Usually, when his caravan got this far, his business associate from Rajgir would come, with his men to meet him. He got anxious because nobody had yet come to meet him. He was more than a business associate. Anandapanaka was married to his sister and his wife was Anandapanaka's sister. So, they were actually brothers-in-law 2 times over. Whenever he was in Rajgir, he stayed at their house. When he got to the house, no one was there to welcome him, as they were all busy with one task. He found his brother-in-law and sister making arrangements for a huge feast to be held the next day. They explained that it was for Buddha and Sangha, community of monks. "Buddha, did you say?" asked Anandapanaka in amazement. He remembered that Veda texts had predicted the birth and enlightenment of Buddha in this world and that it should be about this time Buddha attained the Sabbhanuta Nyana, supreme wisdom, to teach sentient beings, the way to liberate from samsara. A prince from the Sakya clan renounced his royal life, sought for and gained supreme wisdom, herein in a forest not far from Rajgir. Dhamma that he taught centered on the cessation of dukkha. His brother-in-law explained with a gleam in his eyes. People in Rajgir, from the humble slaves to King Bimbisara had all taken refuge in Buddha, his Dhamma and Sangha. Although there were many sages who claimed to be to Buddha, their teachings were not meant to guide one to break free from the fetters that bound them to samsara. Knowing that his brother-in-law and King Bimbisara were discerning in spiritual matters, Anandapanaka pondered over the profound effect Buddha's teachings had on them and felt a strong desire to meet Buddha. Wait until tomorrow. Buddha will give a sermon here in this house. Now take a good rest. Sleep well, he was told. He could not sleep that night due to excitement. He got up early in the morning and headed for the Bamboo Grove Monastery to meet Buddha. But, what he thought to be early morning, was actually just past midnight. The streets of the city were quiet. The city gates were open, as if by miracle. Outside the city limits, he passed through the city cemetery. There were wrapped-up dead bodies on the ground, which were to be cremated the next day. It was very dark and eerily quiet. He got a little frightened and thought of turning back. But an inner voice encouraged him, "Go on. A single step you make is worth more than the gold that adorn 100 maidens." Soon he was past the cemetery and found himself in a thick forest. Suddenly, he heard a voice coming from the dark of the night. "Come over here, Sudatta." Not only was the voice seemed to come from nowhere, but it was addressing him by his real name. Normally, one would be scared to death in a situation like this. But Anandapanaka gained courage and a sense of relief, when he heard the calm and compassionate voice. He looked around and saw Buddha sitting under a tree, meditating. He approached Buddha and after the pleasantries, Buddha delivered him a sermon, at the end of which Anandapanaka attained the Sotapanna Magga, the first stage of enlightenment. Anandapanaka was an awakened being who had accumulated meritorious deeds in the previous lives and also in this life, therefore he gained Dhamma insight just by contemplating on one discourse. He also invited Buddha and Sangha for meal donation. Back at the city, his business friends and King Bambisara were amazed and concerned, when they heard about Anandapanaka's invitation. "You're just a visitor here, let us take care of that," they offered. But Anandapanaka assured them, that it was all in day's work. It was true, because he was used to feeding hundreds of people in Srisvasti every day. At the donation ceremony, he requested Buddha, that his fellow countrymen in Kosala were in need of a true master to guide them towards the right path to liberate from samsara. He invited Buddha and Sangha to come and reside in Srisvasti from time to time. Buddha just replied, "We like peace and quiet. which meant that he would come, if there were a monastic retreat conducive to meditation and learning Dhamma, in contrast to Srisvasti, which was a busy and densely populated city. Back in Srisvasti, Anathapindika went looking around for a suitable place. It should be not far or near the city, peaceful and tranquil with wooded areas. He found one, but it was owned by Prince Jita, a powerful and wealthy member of the royal family. The Jita Grove was his favorite possession. He would never part with it, since he had no need for money. When Anathapindika insisted on selling, the prince asked for an absurd price no sane man would ever give. If you could lay gold coins all over the land. Anathapindika said, "Deal," without hesitation. But the prince refused to sell, even at that price. The case was taken to court. The court ruled in favor of Anathapindika. The prince was given the explanation, "You asked for a price and he gave it without even bargaining." Cartloads of bags, containing gold coins, were emptied out of the treasure vault. Anathapindika's workmen laid the grounds, with gold coins end to end. The areas around the trees were measured and gold coins were laid on an equal area. Prince Jita was watching the work being done to assess the land. The first batch of gold coins had run out, but there was a small piece of land left uncovered. Anathapindika ordered his men to open another vault. At that time, Prince Jita was so overwhelmed by the rich man's generosity that he also wanted to be part of the beneficence. The remaining piece of land and the areas around the trees, he would donate, he insisted. And the Jita Grove became the site for the Jetavana monastery. Anathapindika further spent twice the amount he paid for the lands, to build assembly halls and residences for Buddha and Sangha. When all the necessary work was done, he donated the Jetavana monastery to Buddha and Sangha. Buddha traveled from Rajgir to Srisvasti to accept the donation himself. It was the most famous and grandest monastery of the time. The city of Srisvasti boasted two great Buddhist monasteries. Another one was the Pubbaran monastery donated by benefactress Visakha, another extremely wealthy citizen of Kosala. Buddha spent altogether 20 Lenten seasons in one or the other of these two monasteries. At one time in his life, Anathapindika went bankrupt. The reason was that petty merchants who took loans from his bank for their businesses failed to pay back the loans. Another reason was that pots of gold, which his ancestors had buried near the bank of a river, were swept away during the landslides and floods. Even under these dire circumstances, Anathapindika managed to keep on with his donations every day. He never failed to visit the Jetavana monastery 3 times a day, to see to the needs of the bhikkhus, monks. He once confessed to Buddha that he was not happy with his daily meal donations, because he could only afford poor quality rice and curry. Buddha consoled him that it was the generosity that mattered. Their conversation was overheard by Indra, ruler of the Tavatimsa Deva realm. Himself a devout disciple of Buddha, like Anathapindika, he decided to help. He ordered the devas under his rule to use their powers to regain his wealth. And so, with divine intervention, his wealth was restored. Anathapindika was blessed with a remarkable and dependable family. He came from a wealthy family and married into a wealthy family. His wife was very supportive of her husband's undertakings. She was also well known for her immense generosity. During the donation ceremony of the Jetavana monastery, his younger brother and business partner, Subhuti, joined the Bhikkhu order, after listening to Buddha's sermon. He later became an arahant. One of his sons also became a bhikkhu, went to live with his uncle and attained the liberation of an arahant. Another son, wayward at first, but turned pious and later, attained Sotapaddi Magga. His 2 elder daughters unfailingly organized daily donation tasks. As such, had the chance to listen to Dhamma discourses daily and attained Sotapaddi Magga, even before they married and moved away. The youngest daughter was an exception. After her sisters moved away, she took care of the task. She died young, after a short period of illness. But before she died, she attained Sagadgami Magga, the 3rd stage of enlightenment. Buddha spent 20 Lenten seasons in Srisvasti, mostly residing in Jetavana monastery complex. There, he taught Dhamma to lay disciples and bhikkhus and bhikkhunis with the help of his chief theras and theris, senior monks who had attained higher stages of enlightenment. They understood and practiced Dhamma to the extent that many were liberated from samsara. The Kusala merit that Anathapindika gained from this deed alone is unfathomable. More than 30 years passed after the establishment of the Jetavana monastery. One day, a messenger from Anathapindika came to Buddha to send word that he was gravely ill. On behalf of his master, he paid homage by touching his head with Buddha's feet. Could Buddha send Venerable Saripatara to him? He relayed his master's request. Venerable Saripatara and Venerable Ananda went to the rich man's mansion and found him lying on his bed. He explained that his condition was getting worse with each moment, with no hope of recovery. Venerable Saripatara knew that Anathapindika was on his deathbed and chose a discourse that was most relevant at this juncture. There was no need for teachings about dana, charity, or sila, morality, because the rich man had these in full measure. The discourse he was about to deliver was based on vipassana meditation. He began. Dear great benefactor, when one of the 6 sense faculties, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind, runs with one of the 6 objects, form, sound, smell, taste, tangibility, Dhamma, which comes into contact with the 6 doors, eye, door, ear door, nose door, tongue door, body door, mind door, 6 kinds of consciousness are caused. They do not belong to you. They arise and cease. They appear and vanish. They are anicca, impermanent. They are dukkha, unsatisfactory and empty. They are anatta, you are not in control. That is why, you must not cling to them. By letting go, tanha, craving, mana, pride, ditthi, wrong view, are eradicated. Let go of them for your liberation. Anathapindika, who was already a spiritually awakened man, meditated on and absorbed the discourse while listening. Venerable Saripatara added. Stop clinging to this life and stop anticipating the afterlife. Do not hold on to any existence. The 4 Mahabuddhas, earth, fire, water, wind, as well as space, consciousness are fleeting, impermanent phenomena. Do not cling to them. Your loved ones, your friends, people whose livelihood depend on you, your material possessions, your business empire, your philanthropic activities, memories, thoughts, emotions, plans, responsibilities, the desire to help the destitute are not the things you should feel attached to. By not clinging to any of them, future Vijnana, consciousness, will not be caused or determined by them. Let go of them. At the end of the sermon, they found tears falling on his face. He explained, such profound Dhamma, I have the chance to listen only on my deathbed. I, who had served Sangha so well, who had a close relationship with all theras had never listened to this kind of discourse before. Venerable Saripatara explained, Great benefactor, we give this kind of discourse to monks only. They have renounced their lives of being householders. But for householders like you, have many things to think about, family, business etc. This discourse would not be feasible for them. Anathapindika replied, It is true we have not renounced everything, but there are among us who have enough discernment to understand the Dhamma insight of not clinging. There are among the householders whose eyes are covered with only a flimsy layer of kilesas, defilements. This Dhamma may benefit them to some degree. So, please preach this Dhamma to lay disciples also. Do not reserve it only for monks. The Venerable Theras assured him that they will. Then they left. After they left, Anathapindika passed away. The greatest philanthropist of his day had built and donated the Jetavana monastery, where many bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, as well as lay disciples sought and gained liberation from rounds of rebirth and death. The buildings in the monastery complex were so stalwart that the ruins still stand today. By asking Venerable Saripatara to deliver the discourse on letting go, he left a spiritual legacy as well. The discourse by Venerable Saripatara, known as Anathapindika Veda Sutta, is among the well-known and widely preached discourse in the Buddhist world. Anathapindika was reborn as a deva in Tusita heaven, where his youngest daughter was there to meet him. That same night he visited Buddha and told him that every time he thought of Jetavana Monastery he was imbued with rapture. He added that Venerable Saripatara was the greatest Thera in Gautama Buddha's sasana. Then he disappeared. The Anathapindika Deva will not be ever reborn in sensual realms. He will be reborn in pure and glorious realms until he pass into nirvana. The end.